Check one, two, check one, two. Let me make sure that I'm able to hear myself real quick. Gotta have my phone handy to make sure that I'm coming through. Um, Welcome, everybody. I know it is Thursday, and usually we don't do this on Thursdays. This is a Friday thing, but things happens. People's get busy, and we have to make some changes in order to accommodate the people that we're bringing on our show. It's Circle Talk Thursday edition. We got a very, very special guest in the building today. Mr. Keith Blocker. For those that don't know him, he's done a lot of things in our community. This month has been pretty much focused on everyone in the Washington area that have been doing beneficial and influential things in this community. And this person right here is very, very well known around the community. Obviously, he's the deputy mayor. That's a huge, huge a name in itself. That means he's got a little bit of power. He's been around a little bit, and he's helped us out in more ways than we all can imagine. And so we're going to have a conversation about his life, how he got to the place that he is today, and what's in the future with him and his journey and the direction that he's moving in, especially in this new position of deputy mayor. I'm excited to dig in and learn more about this, brother. But before we get into our interview with Mr. Keith Blocker, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, iShotya.com, for anybody that is looking for any pictures that are locally living in this area, weddings, graduations, family portraits, anything of that nature. Hit up iShotya.com. He also does professional pictures too, headshots. If you're looking for headshots, just hit him up. He's got a great deal going on during the summer. $75 off. You can't beat that for a deal. So just let him know I sent you, and he'll hook you up. Also, I wanted to bring something to you guys' attention. I don't know if you guys can see the shirts in the background. One Love All Around the World is in motion. Next Sunday, August 8th. We are coming out with our 4th edition of One Love All Around the World. One Love is it's an online event that features artists from all over the country, all over the world, that are going to perform for us, share their talents, and we're all going to unite together to form a bond, forming peace, love, unity across the world. So if anybody is available on Sunday, got some free time, definitely look up One Love All Around the World. It's going to be an amazing event from artists all over the place. Trust me, we got people from Alaska, people from across the pond. We got people all over the world, guys. Trust me, it's going to be an amazing event, and I'm excited to watch this thing unfold. I will be in Chicago, so we're going to be going live from Chicago for this event. So I'm excited. It's going to be a great vacation. So watch out for that, August 8th, next Sunday. One Love All Around the World, Volume 4. All right, so without further ado, thank you guys so much for being here. We're going to go ahead and jump into the interview. We got Mr. Keith Blocker waiting. We don't want to keep him waiting too long because I called him and he jumped on and he was in a conference call. So we know this man is working up to the minute. So let's go ahead and bring him on and we'll have a conversation with him. So welcome, Keith Blocker.
Oh, man. How you doing, David?
All right. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well.
First off, man, like I said before, I'm truly thankful that you had made this time for us. I know you were busy and things came up last minute for you. And I do appreciate you finding the time to make this interview possible for not only myself, but for the people that are going to be watching us today. How you doing today, though?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for inviting me to participate in this conversation. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem, man. No problem. I've heard a lot of interesting things about you from friends and people that I've worked with, and so I'm excited to learn for myself from the source instead of hearing from other people. I'm excited to hear from the source, and so I wanted to just start off by just digging in and starting from the very beginning for you. Tell us a little about your childhood, where you grew up at, how the household was, things like that.
Yeah, man. So I'm originally from Philadelphia.
Okay.
Um, spent the first 25 years of my life in Philadelphia. I often tell people I learned how to survive in Philadelphia, and then I
Yeah.
moved to Tacoma, and I learned how to thrive. Right.
Yeah.
So that's a distinction I think is important. Oftentimes, a lot of us, stay in survival mode.
Yeah.
And to really be, for me to reach my full potential, you got to break out of survival mode and start to thrive, right?
Yeah.
But needless to say, grew up in Philly, single mom, that story. But my dad was involved, but it just wasn't in the household. But so
Mm.
I was primarily raised by my mom, who, at some point, I'm an 80s baby, right? So
Yeah.
growing up in Philly in the early 80s, the crack cocaine epidemic hit our communities hard. And,
Mm.
my mom was a young mom and she got caught up in that. And that kind of, in a lot of ways, um, was had real serious impacts on my life.
Mm.
Experienced homelessness, watched my mom struggle with, domestic violence. There was times we lived in shelters, or, family members' house. So like that kind of home stability just wasn't a reality for me.
Mm.
I ended up going to like 5 different elementary schools,
Oh
what I'm
wow.
saying? Like in like 5 years. So, I was like always on the move, which in some ways was a good thing because I never uh I was able to like make new friends wherever I went. I was able to
Yeah.
like figure out how to connect with people in different ways. And again, it was about survival.
Yeah.
Uh, I think overall, I look back and I think how many houses I actually lived in Philadelphia, and I'm like, man, I probably lived in over 25 houses in 25
That's
years.
crazy though
You know
when
what I
you
mean?
think
For
about
like some small extent of time, anywhere from a few months to a couple years. Did that couch surfing thing as a teenager. So slept in my car. When I got a little older. Um, but those early years were really really interesting because my mom was real big on education. I tell people, even though she struggled with an addiction, that didn't really change change her character. Like she
it.
has strong values that she implanted in myself and my two other sisters that she raised. So I have two younger sisters.
Okay.
All of us ended up going to college, um, and like so my youngest sister, she's like the she's like the pride and joy of the family. We love to brag on her. She
Yeah.
ended up like going to Yale and got her bachelor's degree, and then she went to University Penn and got her master's in education, and then she went to Columbia Law School and got her law degree. So
Wow.
like and we like and my middle sister, same thing. She went to Temple University, got her bachelor's degree. So like we're all doing really well. And but we lived in shelters. Our mom struggled with addiction. We had a lot of instability. So we often we laugh about like, man, we're not supposed to be where we're at, statistically speaking,
Yeah.
way society will like frame, you know, people's outcomes based off of their circumstances at the time. Like I said, my mom was big on education. She was always big about service, helping other people.
Mhm.
So she instilled a lot of those values, and my dad too. My dad was, always aspiring to be an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
So he had entrepreneur spirit. He always worked. He was a hardworking guy. He did his best to take care of his kids to the best of his ability. Just it was a positive dude. So I think any success I have, obviously stems from my mother and my father and growing up in Philadelphia. So that's kind of the beginning stages. Yeah.
That's interesting though, man. I gotta tell you something. Listening to you talk about your guys' upbringing and the fact that you guys ended up in the places that you guys are. You're actually telling people and explaining to people that you don't necessarily have to come from this perfect home, perfect household of mom, dad, picket fence, and all these things to be able to be successful. That's extremely interesting, and I'm glad that you touched on that and you explained it in the way that you did. What exactly do you think it was? Obviously, yes, your mom and your dad instilled these ideas of helping people um, into your guys's, your day to day. But what made you make that choice? Because you still had to choose that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
how it was in Philly at that time when you was coming up. I know there had to be a little bit of gangs and violence and
Oh
stuff like that.
man, it was wild, bro. Like it was, I remember starting in school, elementary school. It's like, that first 5 years of your life, you kind of sheltered, right? It was like mom and auntie, and sometimes dad and uncles. So like that was like real big for me because like I can honestly say I didn't experience a lot of trauma, in
Mhm.
those early stages. But then
Yeah.
like first grade, like it was real. Like it was
Mhm.
like ain't no more mama. Like once you hit those streets to go to school, you know, it's
Yeah.
like you out there. You know what I'm saying? So um I had to learn how to fight. I had to learn how to fight, man. It was a lot, a
Yeah.
lot of lot of fights, a lot of knuckling up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um
Were
and
you guys in a bad part of town, or were you in a pretty
oh
decent part?
man, bad part, yeah, it was the bad part of we said I was, my early years was in North Philly. North
Yeah.
Philly was no joke, right? So
Yeah.
like, going to school, it was rough. But you had your friends, it
Yeah.
wasn't really gangs though, right? It was like Philadelphia was like, it's my block,
Yeah.
22nd Street. Like this, we the 22nd Street crew, and we don't like those 23rd Street dudes, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's how it was. It wasn't like that community on your street was a big deal.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was a lot of fights. But like for me, it wasn't my thing. Like
Yeah.
I just gotta survive. Like you just can't just get punched in the face over and over and not do nothing.
Right.
So like that was like the early years, and like I got this scar right here when I was 6. Like
Yeah.
after a fight, a kid cut me with a razor blade.
What?
Yeah, so I got shanked outside the schoolyard, man. Kid hit me with a razor blade on the side of my face, and I had to get stitches and all that. And that that probably saved my life in a lot of ways because you going through these hoods and like survival, and you're like, yo, I gotta fight every time. And from that experience, I was like, all right, I might need to control my temper a bit, and like I don't gotta engage in everything. And I was already a peaceful dude, but you step to me, I step up. So like I really started to think, like, when I was 6, I was like, man, an 8-year-old cut me. Man, this dude was like 16, he probably would have shot me.
Yeah.
Like so I was just kind of like reflecting on that as a 6-year-old. I was like, wow, like that was deep. So I kind of like started to chill a little bit, but there was still fights here and there, but it definitely made me think a little more critically about, you know, um, you know, keeping my mouth shut. Don't you don't gotta say something every time somebody says something to you. Learn to
Yeah.
walk away if you can, right? And walking away is not always the option, but like if you can walk away, walk away. But yeah, man, got chased home from school for defending my sister.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff. Cats right up on your door, like knock on your door, call
Yeah.
you out
Yeah.
to come out and fight.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
so, so yeah, it was like a lot of that. But I was a smart kid. I did really well in school. School just kind of came easy.
Yeah.
Didn't really develop study habits until like after high school, right?
Mhm.
So I didn't like take that traditional route. It just kind of came easy. I ended up going to college once I came to Tacoma,
Oh, okay.
and started out at Tacoma Community College. And when I moved here, I found out I have a visual disability, and most people don't know this about me. Like I'm technically legally blind, because like
Oh,
blindness is
wow.
on the spectrum. So like
Yeah.
obviously I could see and I can navigate and things like that, but like I can't read small print, and I use a lot of visual aids and technology to read, and sometimes I use speech devices to read things to me. But anyway, I moved here and I found out that I had a visual disability,
Mm.
and the doctor recommended that I go to the Washington State Services for the Blind. So they took me on. Um, I went to their doctor, and their doctor verified what another doctor had said, that I was, legally blind. And what that means is, if no glasses can correct my vision, like no surgery, no glasses, and it's in both eyes.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, both eyes. So it's a genetic disease called Stargardt's disease, which is a form of macular degeneration.
Mm.
So I connected with that state agency, and they said, uh, we'll help you go to college if you want. And I was like, sign me up.
Yeah.
So I was 25. I didn't even know how to type. Like, never couldn't even type, bro. At 25, couldn't
Wow.
type because I avoided computers because I couldn't
Yeah.
see. You know, and
Wow. That's crazy.
computers wasn't accessible, and when they were, I couldn't
Yeah.
see it. So
Wow.
uh, so they ended up telling me I need to learn how to type. So I would go to their building like every day just to practice typing, and they had the
Yeah.
visual aids and all that. And once I got up to like 30 words a minute, they were like, "We'll buy you a computer." So that was kind of motivation for me to learn how to type. And obviously, you can't go to college if you don't know how to type. So
Oof.
like that was the first step. And then ended up enrolling in Tacoma Community College. Spent maybe like 6 quarters there, and I decided I wanted to transfer to the University of Puget Sound. And I remember telling my counselor, at the state, and they were like, "Oh, that's a lot of money."
Yeah.
But I started, I was doing really well. I think I had like a 3.9 GPA at TCC, and so I was able to transfer those credits, and then actually got like a whole lot of scholarships, academic scholarships, scholarships for being poor, low income, scholarships for being visually impaired. Like I was racking them up, and so I was able to go to UPS, and I ended up getting my bachelor's degree in 2012. I think I was about 30 years old at the time when I got my bachelor's degree. So that was like big because my sister who went to Yale, she was getting her bachelor's degree, right? And she's 8 years younger than me. So she
Yeah.
had came to see me graduate, and I flew
That's
out
awesome.
to see her graduate. So that was kind of cool. We graduated the same year. But
Yeah.
but yeah, man, that was kind of a bit about my journey. And then
Yeah.
um getting involved in Tacoma was big. I got to Tacoma. um, I was always interested in politics. Um, always, again, about service. So I was really involved with like youth development in my early years in Tacoma. Um, I was a hip hop artist. I was doing hip hop, using hip hop as a way to engage young people, help them find their voice, and
Yeah.
help them express themselves in a more positive way. Because for me, poetry and hip hop was how I found my voice, right? Like I wasn't shy. I was the kid that would sit back and watch talented people do great things and be like, I could do that if I
Yeah.
wanted, like that kind of kid. But I was
Yeah.
always too nervous to like stand in front of a crowd and all that. So like the first time I actually performed was standing in front of a crowd to perform was I had turned a poem into a rap song, and I got to perform out in Philadelphia, and then from there I started to make like little hip hop albums, and had a crew that I was running with. Uh,
Okay.
a guy named Noah Prince, who is actually the reason why I moved to Tacoma. He's a Jewish brother from Seattle who was working on his master's degree in Philadelphia, and we met. So I was ripping and running the streets trying to save the world with no money in my pocket.
Yeah.
And we both loved hip hop music, and we both had a passion about helping youth. So that's how we connected. And then when he needed to move back to the Northwest, he invited me to come out so we could continue to work on music and work on serving and helping young people. So that's kind of how I got started in the early stages in Tacoma.
So do you remember that rap? Can you spit some
Oh
bars?
man.
Spit some bars?
I don't remember it.
That's crazy.
Another time. I haven't, man. I haven't. Like, it was crazy because I was doing the music,
Yeah.
and when I started writing college essays, the rap songs had to take a back seat. So,
Yeah, for sure.
um, kind of, still I still got it. Just
Yeah.
haven't really
You
been
just got to
used.
dig it up.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like riding a bike, you know?
Yeah. I can still put pen to paper, man,
That's
and
awesome.
create something. Yeah.
So let's jump into your first time getting involved with politics.
Yeah.
When did that all start for you? You said you had a passion for it for a while, but
Mhm.
when did you first finally find your way in?
So sure, it goes back to Philadelphia. I had my first grade teacher told my mom that I could be like the next Jesse Jackson, right?
Wow.
And this is like '88. This is like Jesse Jackson running for president, and I'd never forget that when she's like, "Oh, he's a leader, he
Yeah.
could do this." So like to have, and it was an older black woman too. So like to have a teacher see that in a 6-year-old, like that stuck with me. And then like in the sixth grade, I was like the sixth grade class president. And like Philadelphia, it was always a black mayor. So like seeing black men, black women in leadership was kind of the norm. So when I moved to Tacoma, I already had in mind, like I was supposed to be the mayor of Philadelphia. Like
Yeah.
that was going to be my thing, right?
Yeah.
And I moved out here, and I met Harold G. Moss, who's the
Man.
first black mayor in the city of Tacoma, and I started to attend the Tacoma Pierce County Black Collective. So I was like, 25 at the time, and sitting in this room with these monumental figures like Harold Moss, Thomas Dixon, La Quasim, Tom Hilliard, Gerald Burke, like these, James Walton, who was the first black city manager in the city of Tacoma.
Mhm.
So I was able to like sit with these individuals. So that kind of made it even more real.
Yeah.
Um, I worked for Victoria Woodards. She was on the council at the time, and I was
Mhm.
running her youth program at the Tacoma Urban League when she was the
Okay. Yeah.
executive director. So like they say, like you got to see it to believe it, right? So when you
Yeah.
are in the presence of people who have done those kind of things, it just kind of makes it more realistic. So I started doing my research. Harold Moss, Mr. Moss, uh, was at an event with me one time, and I stood up and spoke out against something that I didn't like. I didn't
Mhm.
like what the speaker was saying, so
Yeah.
I had like raised my hand to speak, and I called the speaker out in front of like 400 people. It was like AC Green. You remember AC Green,
I do. Yeah.
the basketball player?
Yeah.
He came to Tacoma, and it was like a I want to say like it was a church based event, but they invited him to be the speaker, and like
Okay.
Mr. Moss and Lau Kwasim invited me to come sit at their table. And
Yeah.
like AC Green is like going on about Magic Johnson being the center, and just saying crazy stuff about like,
Yeah.
that's why he got HIV, and and that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, man,
Wow.
that's a pandemic. Like, it don't really got nothing to do if you sinned or not. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's a disease that people get no matter if they cheated on their wife or not. So I called them out in front of all these people, and I
Yeah.
sat down. I was like, oh man, what did I just do?
Yeah.
And and like Mr. Moss leaned over to me. He's like, son, excuse me, it's not too explicit, but these are the exact words. He says, son, you got balls. And he's like, you gonna be all right. So like from that day on, we was kicking it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so I started to like look into how to run for office. I started to look at like when the next opportunity would come up to get a seat. And nobody really told me to do it. From time to time people was like, you ever think about this? And I was thinking about it, but I didn't, run around telling everybody I was going to run for office. But when the opportunity came up, I just kind of took a leap of faith and jumped in the race. And I was able to like knock on doors, raise some money, engage community members. I got a lot of good support from the Tacoma Pierce County Black Collective, and my wife and a close friend of mine. We put it all together, and we ran a campaign, and it was like six. I had six opponents. So for the primary, and we're talking about like six people splitting up maybe 3,000 votes, right?
Wow.
So like every vote counted. And so we were, I don't know if people know, like I put in like 40-50 hours a week on a campaign on top of having a full-time job, right?
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
we
Wow.
were working hard. And I ended up making it through the primary and to get second place, by like 20 something votes.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like 20 votes. And I was losing on election night. And like they still had to count votes. And like the
Yeah.
next day I caught up, and then I just kind of kept the lead. But I won by like 20-25 votes.
That's
So when they
awesome.
say votes don't count, every vote counts. And
Yeah.
then I was able to win in the general election, and then got elected in 2015 and reelected in 2019. But it was all preparation. Like I knew everything from going to UPS, right? I was like, all right, prestigious college is gonna look real good on my
Yeah.
resume. That kind of
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Community service work. I literally laid the foundation. I was doing events to engage young people, giving back to the community, like all those things I knew would be significant. When I took the steps to run for office. So it wasn't like I just jumped out there. Like I like a lot of hard work and preparation.
Awesome. So I'm gonna jump into something real quick, and you just tell me your thoughts on it. So Harold Moss, very very influential person to Tacoma.
Hmm.
I heard that you guys had a pretty decent relationship.
Yeah.
Um, how influential was he to the the steps that you made after to get in the office and where you're at today?
Oh man, I mean, he was from like 2007 to he passed. I would talk to him at least once a week. Either over the phone or Saturday mornings we'll have breakfast together and things like that. So he was like always pouring in wisdom, telling his stories, giving his very honest
He's
feedback.
he's pretty blunt. Pretty blunt.
he was like he was like my I don't know. It's like, all right, if Mr. Moss approves that I'm good,
Yeah,
like even public speaking, um, uh, going to the Black Collective, like that's where I got like my real public speaking chops. If you
yeah,
could stand in front of that group and do a presentation and walk out unscathed, you could
yeah,
stand in front of any group of people you know. So it was like, and I always look, Mr. Moss always like be right there, and I always looked at him. And if he was smiling, I was like, all right, I'm doing good.
Yeah.
If he had that grimace, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna get a talking to after this,
Yeah.
you know. So everything from like little stuff. I remember I announced that I was running for office, and I, had a button-up shirt like this, and I think I had some jeans on. My shirt was untucked.
He
He's like,
jumped on you. Huh?
if you're gonna be a council member, you better start dressing like a council. I was like, oh man, like it's Saturday, we just chilling. Nah, so like it was no more chill. Like I
Yeah.
do chill out, and
Always on watch.
I was always on watch, right?
Yeah.
It's like somebody's always watching you. Somebody's
Yeah.
always like, I was like, all right, cool. So Saturday morning, while everybody like you talking about like the first black city manager chill and relax,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Everybody in their chill clothes. I'm coming with the button up, like I'm ready for business.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of how I did it. It's like, all right, you going to jump in this arena. My dad always told me that too. Like your suit is your armor. How
Yeah.
you dress is your armor. So you want to jump in that arena, like you gotta act the part. And I tell young people like, don't get on the football field with your basketball jersey on.
No.
You gonna get in trouble.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Exactly.
it was like those kind of things, and even like talking. If I was like rocking too much, he's like, "Son, you're not doing a hip hop song. You giving a speech."
Yeah. That's funny. But that's how he was though.
Yeah, he was older, obviously more conservative, but like I was like, cool. Like at the end of the day, I knew like young people wasn't going to vote for not just because young people didn't like me. It was like we did the numbers, right? It's like
Yeah.
okay, 50-year-olds vote, right?
Yeah.
35 and up vote, so you gotta play to your audience, so when I was knocking on doors campaigning, I wasn't talking to 20-year-olds and 25-year-olds. I was talking to Aunt Susan and Grandma Jones. And
Yeah.
so when I showed up to their door, and I got tattoos, so it would be like 90 degrees outside, and I had a long sleeve shirt on.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know? Like, yeah. And
Gotta
people
look
was
the
like,
part.
man, you dedicated. It's like, yep. So and like it just that was just the way I felt like I needed to do it. It's like a little compromise. And then, as I, got more into the position, I was able to relax a little bit more, literally let my hair out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about let's venture over. I'm gonna venture over to someone that is still kind of in your life. Victoria Wood.
Mm-hmm.
She's been around for a long time. Obviously, like you said, you guys work together at Tacoma Urban League. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How influential has she been to your journey?
Oh man, she's another one. Huge influence. She would drop a few bugs in my ear. I would go to events. Like I said, if I had a chance to call you out, or if I felt like something was like, you know, racist or
Yeah.
bad representation of black people, I
Yeah.
was like, yo. When I worked for her, she would get phone calls about me. We were like, "Who's this Keith Blocker?" So I learned a few things from her about like how to be more tactful.
Yeah.
Like I would call you out and ask questions that I knew you didn't have the answer to, just to show everybody you don't know what you're talking about. And she was like, Keith, like, you don't gotta, it's a time and place for that, but like you can pull
Yeah.
people to the side and have a side conversation, so it's like little nuanced things that I picked up from her.
Right.
She was always able to like keep her cool, like in stressful situations. And like I remember, I would tell her, one day I'm run for office. I think people thought I was kind of a hothead, and in politics, being a hothead, yeah, it it might get you immediate, like instant results, but
Yeah.
it's temporary, right?
Right.
It is not sustainable, and like it's really all about relationships, and um, and when you put people on the spot or you embarrass people, like it really like you might need them later.
Yeah.
So
That's true. That's
um,
true.
so I learned a lot of that from her, just like how to be more thoughtful with my approach, and it's paid off. So yeah, she's um, you know very very smart woman, very committed to service. I remember writing a college paper about leadership, and I chose her, Mr. Moss, and Lau Kwasim, and like she was big on being a servant leader, servant leadership. Yeah.
Awesome. That's real cool. So this is my last person I'm gonna touch on, and this kind of ventures back to 2019 when I first met you. Um, we were at the building down on Ninth. What is that place called? Gosh, I forget. Where they do all the meetings and they discuss all the policies and procedures in place. They do it pretty much, I think, every Tuesday. Um,
It's the city building, the municipal city, the municipal building.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We was down there, and um, Candace Wesley was there,
Mm-hmm.
and she brought about 120 to 150 friends for the
Ceasefire.
the ceasefire.
Yeah.
You remember that day? Remember that day, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
Such an amazing, such an amazing event. Tell me a little bit about you and Candace. Did you guys end up building a relationship at
Yeah,
all?
yeah. Candace is one of those people. Like she texts me, she called me. We stay in touch.
Yeah.
She's a powerful sister in the community.
Yeah, that was such a to me. I thought that day was such an amazing day for our city. Um, how powerful was that for you? Do you think just to
Oh,
'cause we were going through some tough times. Remember, a
yeah,
lot of kids were being killed.
yeah,
A lot of police brutality, violence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Not just police, but gun violence. Period. In the community was at an all time high, and so.
right.
Um, how big was that?
No, that was important. I mean, like, you know, when prior to the pandemic, Tuesdays, depending on what's going on, you can have a handful of people in the in the room for council meetings,
Mhm.
where you have fall up to capacity, right? And like, but what you don't see oftentimes is that room full of black men. So like that was powerful to see, brothers standing together, to address gun violence
Yeah.
and to speak on those issues. So I definitely appreciate that, and I know individuals like you can't, like, these people are always working. Like, we assume that just because it's not on social media or TV or is being advertised, that people aren't doing positive things. But like, people are doing positive stuff all the time, helping young people and mentoring, even if it's not in a formal capacity, but there's a lot of good brothers out there in the city of Tacoma
Yeah.
doing really good work,
Yeah.
to address issues that impact particularly young people in the Black community.
Awesome. Well, let me jump into something more personal. Your wife. How
Yeah.
important? How important is your wife to you, man?
Oh man, she's my A1, man. Like, I the stuff that I'm able to accomplish, I you know without her support, a lot of it just wouldn't be possible. When I was campaigning, I remember talking to her about, like, I mean, my first date, I told her I was going to run for office. She probably thought I was crazy, So,
Yeah.
um, but she believed in me. She believed in my vision, and I remember telling her, like, all what it was going to take, because it was like, you've been talking about this for years, and when it got to the point where the opportunity came up, like I was scared, I was like, yo, that's a lot of work, put yourself out there. She's like, well, you said you was going to do it. And I was like, yeah, I did say I was going to do it. And and she's like, let's do it. And we've been lockstep, man. And like, with my visual disability, like I can't drive. I don't drive. So like going to door, like she went door to door with me,
Wow.
knocking on doors. So I tell people liked her more than they liked me. But that was cool because we got those votes. So there was times we went together, and there was times where we split up, and she would just like go knock on that door. Like, it's my vision so bad I can't even see the addresses. So like
Wow.
I need somebody with me to go, or else I just look like I'm crazy stranger walking up and down the street. So like
Yeah.
she knocked on those doors with me. She put in those hours with me, and like for us, reason why we work well together because our relationship is like really rooted in our values, our shared values,
Yeah.
about family, about mutual respect, about supporting each other. So yeah, we really wanted to like you know be a positive example of of a relationship, particularly you know two black people in love with each other, doing things together to support each other's vision. So yeah, man, she like got my back 100%, and there's like no ego involved in our relationship. It's when I do better, she do better, and then when she do better, I do better, and we try to pour that into our children. We have two children, two boys, KJ Keith Jr. and Idris. So yeah, it's our partnership is what makes it work.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what's next for you, man. I mean, you're the deputy mayor, since 2019, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
2019.
I've been able to serve. Usually, um, serving as deputy mayor is like 1 year, but I was able to get reappointed to the position and serve 2 years. So it's been a great experience. Like one of the biggest things about being on the council is the things that I've learned about how government works,
Mhm.
why things go the way it goes, and so like I have an outside perspective and an inside perspective, and I totally understand why people are frustrated with certain things, and I know why it goes the way it goes. So like the things that I've learned has been powerful. As for like, I'm not sure what's next though. I'm an entrepreneur. I do consulting. I started out, doing shows and events,
Mhm.
um, and I'm interested in the real estate industry. So really trying to figure out how that works and property ownership and property management. So got quite a few things that I'm looking forward to once I'm done serving.
Mhm.
It'd be 8 years, 8 years of being on the council. I haven't done anything for 8 years.
Wow.
So
Mhm.
that's that's going to be interesting. Other than I think, well, I've been married for 7 years, so
Yeah.
the institution of marriage is
Yeah.
probably the longest institution. but 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 yeah, I have it. So it's gonna be interesting. But I've definitely enjoyed serving, and
Yeah.
uh, politics may be in my future. I'm just not 100% sure yet.
Let me ask you a question, man. And this is just I just thought about this. Since you've been in office, you said you've been in office almost 8 years, right?
Yeah, six years right now.
6 years.
Yeah.
Uh, Out of everything that you've done, what is one thing that you can think about that you're proud of being a part of that has happened in since you've been in office?
So like it's interesting. Like a lot of the stuff is um you won't see the effects of certain things that we like I'll be gone before. Like probably the biggest thing I'm proud of is like working to get more more black contractors and more people of color opportunities to like work with the city.
Mm.
Um, and but that's going to take a long time. Like we passed the ordinance, and that was something that I like worked on like from the time I got on the council, and it took like 3 years to like get it laid out correctly, right? So like um the better inclusion for business owners, particularly small minority owned businesses to get opportunities to work with the city and the county, a city and Tacoma Public Utilities is a big thing that people aren't aware of.
Mm.
So that's going to be something that once I'm done, I'm probably really looking into. Another thing is uh, so there was the Rite Aid building on MLK,
Yeah.
and when I got elected, I started to engage the organization that purchased that building.
Okay.
It was a Seattle-based organization who's in the real estate, but they purchase real estate to like uh, not so much to provide resources and opportunities to people who live in that community.
That's
Um,
awesome.
so so that building, like I said, about time like when that building is knocked down and something new goes up, I won't even be on the council anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. Um, Getting more resources for the light rail is huge. Uh, since I've been on the council, and this is uh, more resources for like human services. Um, I mean, I know like homelessness is bad. Like, since I've been on the council, we've been putting more resources into it to
Yeah.
try to address it. Um, yeah, and just like uh, being in that space, sometimes as the only black male, um, for me has been significant to like speak to certain issues,
Mm.
bring more awareness amongst my colleagues who just don't have the same experiences that I've had. So like, growing up in poverty and actually living it and navigating racist systems and things like that has been uh, a great asset for me to work within the city to try to make some changes. But like change is slow. Like it's not
Yeah.
something that
So many levels to
like
it.
so many levels to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
The stuff around policing is a big thing. Uh, like really on the inside pushing for change around that. Um, you know, so like I said, it's the changes are happening. They're slow changes, but
Still changes.
like I said, I'll be done before
Yeah.
I see.
Before you actually get to see it in
Yeah,
action.
yeah. A
Yeah.
lot of stuff is like getting it on paper, finding the resources for it. Another thing is uh, like paving our streets. That's been big. Kind of like just myself and my colleagues. Making sure we hold ourselves accountable to make sure that there's an equitable distribution of fixing our infrastructure. Um, yeah, it's a lot. It's hard for me to like. I don't really keep track. Like I'm just working, man. Like I'm
Yeah.
not putting feathers in my hat to say, I did this, I did that. Is more about the work and
Yeah. Just trying to
um,
do your part to be
yeah,
helpful to the community and the people that are creating these plans and these blueprints for a better community in itself. So
yep,
I get it. I trust me. I totally get it. It
yep,
starts here. You got a blueprint on paper, and then you have to sign off on it, and then somebody has to get with contractors, and then they have to sign off on it.
all the stuff. So yeah,
There's so many levels,
so many
but
levels to it.
that's cool though that you have noticed that these things are put into place, and now they just have to start,
Mhm.
putting them in action. You
Yep.
know.
We did a huge push, with the Tacoma Detention Center. That was something big. So I've been involved with like um pushing the state to like literally ban detention centers and things like that. So
Mhm.
it's just a lot of things that I've been involved in around
Yeah.
access and equity and addressing disparities. I also serve on the Pierce County Health Department board. um, that work is really important in partnership with the city of Tacoma, and they have uh, started like a initiative to address racial disparities, racial health disparities. I've advocated for more resources for low birth weights, black infant and
Mm.
mortality rates.
Yeah.
So been working to pour more resources into that and like highlight that issue and that concern that black babies have a higher chance of dying um, between birth and 2 years old than white babies.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, it's a lot of stuff that I get to work on. I'm also on the Association for Washington Cities. Um,
Mhm.
that's an organization that basically it's every city in the state of Washington is a part of this organization. So I get to represent the city of Tacoma on that
Cool.
on that organization, and I'm a board member representing the three large cities:
Nice.
Tacoma, Spokane, and Seattle. Uh,
That's awesome, man.
yeah, so just being, like I said, being in those spaces, um, you know, tactfully calling things out.
Yeah. 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 For sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
So let me ask you. I got two more questions, and then we're gonna. I know it's getting pretty close to the time for us to be done with our interview, but I got two more questions, and then we'll close it up. But first one is it has to do with culture and diversity.
Hmm.
Um, you came from obviously Philly.
Hmm.
When you got here, was it more of a cultural shock to you when you came from Philly to here? How much of a cultural shock was it for you?
Yeah, I mean that was a culture shock. I think Philadelphia is like 48% Black African American, 48% white,
Yeah,
2% Asian, and you got Latino, Puerto Rican population, and maybe other, but it's all almost like 50-50 Black and white, right? And it's
right.
really segregated,
Mm,
like there's very few neighborhoods where it's integrated. So it's like there's Black Philadelphia and there's white Philadelphia, right?
mm,
I went to a diverse high school though, because I chose to go to a diverse high school, and so moving here for me was interesting because I was looking and seeking the Black community, and I found that with the Black collective. So
mm,
like to be able to tap into that organization every Saturday and have relationships with those individuals was so significant to to my own mental health in a lot of ways.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, but it was a culture shock. But Tacoma, in a lot of ways, uh, obviously is really diverse,
Mm,
but it's real blue collar. Philadelphia is a blue collar city, so like the whole, we kind of play second fiddle to New York in a lot of ways on the
mm,
East Coast.
yeah,
We're the underdogs, so Philadelphia is the underdog city, and I get that sense from Tacoma. So like that kind of down to earth,
makes sense.
gritty city, really resonated with me when I got here. But yeah, the diversity was different, and yeah, it definitely was somewhat of a culture shock.
Mm,
Slower pace, which I'm fine with. You know, Uh, the transit system is way different. Like I'm used to
Yeah.
like being able to get anywhere real fast on a bus and a train.
Yeah.
So that was different. Um, but yeah, it's beautiful out here. Like I tell people like you we need to do like an exchange, right? I had a guy I mentored, and I took him. He's grown now. I met him when he's 17, but he's almost 30. He ended up going to Philadelphia with me. He's like, man, this is where you grew up, and like, he's a street dude, right?
Yeah.
He like, you had to live in this, right? So it's like those perspectives is real interesting when we talk about like the rough neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I moved here, and I admit I slept on Tacoma. I'm not gonna lie, but like I'm like, where's the rough neighborhood? And then was like the hilltop. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. No, it definitely does go down,
Yeah.
right?
It goes down. It goes.
But it's we talking about 200,000 people versus a million people. Yeah, Philadelphia rough versus Tacoma rough neighborhood. But like what I learned though is like poverty is still the same. People still struggling, people still going through, even though visually is different. And environment means a lot, right? The schools. If people complaining about Tacoma schools and how they look, they need to come see a Philadelphia school and how that look, that kind of thing. So like I would love to do like an exchange because a Philly kid might thrive out here. And you take a Tacoma kid to Philadelphia, you'd be like, oh man, take me back to Tacoma. I appreciate that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you just said it yourself. I mean, you was a Philly kid.
Yeah,
You came out here and look at what you're doing now. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? You had
I just
goals,
saw
dreams,
opportunity. I was like, oh,
opportunity.
there's
You know,
opportunity.
that's
You know?
exactly it. Take advantage.
Yeah. And
If
like
we're
it wasn't, I'm not gonna say it was easy, but it was like I just felt like everything I wanted to do when I got here, there was some kind of support system. And it just wasn't a lot of resistance. So I kind of, I think about that a lot, how blessed I've been, to be able to like engage with like-minded people,
yeah,
who has same similar goals. People are really really supportive, to help you, especially if you're trying to do something good.
yeah,
um, I remember being in Philadelphia saying like, oh, all you hear is people saying, we need young people to step up, right? And then you start trying to do stuff and then nothing but roadblocks, right? But out here, like that hasn't really been my experience.
yeah. That's awesome. That's good. That's good to know. I mean, this is my city, so I'm hoping that we doing the right thing and figuring it out.
Yeah,
Instead of
Tacoma's a
me.
beautiful, beautiful city.
Yeah,
Um, a lot of great people. For me, it's I mean, a city's just a name, right? It's the name and boundaries, but the most important aspect of a city is the people.
the people,
Yeah.
definitely. So, I think I had one scenario question that I wanted to throw at you, but it's more of just a thought process. Let's say you're having a conversation with some kids in high school. All of them are are thinking about moving into some type of politics or position of power, and you have this young black woman come up to you. She's about 15 years old, and she's like, I really want to get to where you're at. What do I do to achieve this goal?
Mhm.
What do you tell her?
Um, first the fact that you got a goal, that like goals are powerful. So the fact that a young person has a goal, I tell them hold on to that. And then like success, there's no straight line to success, right? So um, everything takes time, and like we kind of live in this instant. You know, we want things fast, right? We want things like right now. Um,
Yeah,
so if somebody was 15 and telling me they wanted to run for office, I would say just do it, because obviously you got to be at least 18 to run for office. I would still say do it. Um, you know, the experience comes from the work that you do. So even if you was 18 and you ran for office and you failed, so what? So what, you didn't win. But I bet you learn a lot from that experience.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we people are afraid to fail, and failure is the pathway to success.
Mm.
That's why we call it trial and error, right?
Yes. Amen.
Error is the failure. So you keep trying, you keep going at it. You learn. If you're doing a science experiment, you fail, you fail, you fail until you get it right. I think people are generally afraid to fail, and like that's something that I just overcame. It was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. Um, and learn from that experience. So like for a young person, any young person, one, the fact that you have a goal is great. I read books that talk about a lot of people don't have goals.
Yeah.
Just having a goal, increases your ability to be successful. And then if you write down a goal, like it increases it even more. So goals help hold you accountable, and so I think that's really important. But yeah, like I said, the pathway to success is failure. When we look at you know entrepreneurs and business people, they got there through failure.
Yeah.
Bill Gates didn't just sit down and create the Microsoft thing the first try,
Mm.
right? It was,
Yeah.
he had to do it over and over and over and over again until he got it right. Look at athletes. Uh, I'm thinking about Simone Biles right now,
Mm.
gymnast. And how many times she messed up to get the land right, you know? So
Yep.
it's like you gotta just engage in that activity that you're passionate about and just keep doing it. And don't worry about what other people think. Don't worry about what other people say. Um, put your blinders on. You know, um, and when people tell you negative things, I mean, just ignore it. Like if it's not adding value, then you don't need to accept it.
Yeah.
Too often
Yeah.
we accept too many things that don't add value. Oh, and I would also say like relationships are important. Um, whoever you're around increases your ability to be successful.
Mm.
If you're
Well,
around, if you're around people that's not going in a direction that you're going, you know, and you're not going to be successful. So you literally gotta uh, align yourself with like-minded people. I always say like relationships. The one of the most important parts of that word is the last part is ship, right? The ship
mm.
goes somewhere, So if you're in a relationship, my thing is like, where are we going?
Yeah.
What are we doing together? How are we supporting any ship is supposed to go somewhere? So
Mm.
um, if you're in a relationship with people that's not trying to go in the direction you're going, then you might have to part ways.
Yeah.
And that takes courage, to leave people, but sometimes you just gotta you know step out there on faith and know that this is what I want to do, and I need to connect with the right people to make this possible.
Awesome. Great answer. Great answer, man. Thank you so much, man, for spitting the knowledge, giving me some information for the people to hear. You definitely have really opened my eyes to a lot of things that I didn't know about you, that not only are beneficial to me, but to anyone that is listening, when it comes to just life, politics, family, and just choices, making choices, accepting failure, because the biggest failure, your biggest failure could be your biggest triumph if you use it,
Yep.
as a tool, a learning mechanism, a teaching mechanism. You know what I'm saying? Like that's really huge, especially for the kids nowadays. It's like you said, they get so stuck on the idea that they don't want to fail. We all fail at some point in life.
Yep.
You have to fail in order to succeed. You receive probably 25 no's before you get that first yes.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's all a part of life. It's all a
Yep.
part of growth. You know what I'm saying,
Yep.
and becoming who we're going to become in this thing called life. So
Yep. Yep.
um, knowledge, man. You spit that knowledge.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that, and I appreciate being on this platform, man. I feel like I'm on like the Breakfast Club or something, man. Like,
Oh man, this is
this is
this is
dope.
this is Tacoma's version of it. I started this in January, and I've been truly blessed, man, to have sat down with some amazing people, including yourself, that have shared a lot of positivity for people to hear. And really, that's why I created this whole platform, is because there's too many people that have stories that are being missed. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? Some of this information that these people are talking about, including yourself, could be beneficial to those that aren't hearing it.
Hmm.
That's why I want to put it out there so it can be heard.
Yeah,
So
this is powerful, man.
hopefully, yeah, thank you, man. Thank you so much for being here. Like I said, I appreciate the time. I appreciate the answers that you have thrown to us, and I'm hoping and praying that the people that are listening are getting something beneficial from this, because I've felt like I've learned a lot in this hour that we've been on, about you and about just my life and some of the choices that I make moving forward.
Hmm.
So thank you for that. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you, man. Let's stay in touch.
Yes, sir. So, real quick before we get out of here, guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for supporting Circle Talk. Thank you so much for supporting Keith Blocker. Again, shout out to our sponsor, iShotcha.com. Thank you guys for continuing to support him, support me, support us. Let's continue to love one another, support one another, and lift one another up wherever we're at in this world. That's what we need. We need more love and support. And so, on that note, we gonna get rolling. Thank you so much for being here. This is Circle Talk for this week. We'll see y'all next week with I got two people coming on next week, Rebecca Cucci and Lynn Nesbitt, live from Chicago. I'll see you guys next week. Have a wonderful
All right,
day.
man.